It is forbidden.
A system with no monsters, no chase scenes, no jump scares.
INDIKA.
But when you close this game and go to sleep, your brain will not. 4 categories, 1 verdict.
I didn't mean to.
And INDIKA's verdict is the one that will not let you rest.
Go.
A closed system. A single authority structure. No competing framework. No exit. Inside this system, a subject receives contradictory signals from 2 sources she did not choose. One claims to be salvation. The other claims to be the only one telling the truth. Neither offers evidence. Both demand compliance. The subject cannot verify either claim. She cannot leave the field. She cannot stop processing.
Hated so much they lost their original meaning. Hated to smile at Sister Martha's toothless joke.
This is not a premise. This is a coercion architecture. And the system that built it does not attack your amygdala. It does not spike your cortisol with jump scares or chase sequences. It creates a sustained state of cognitive dissonance that your nervous system cannot resolve. And the longer you sit with it, the deeper it embeds. Crab meat attacks the body. INDIKA attacks the architecture of belief itself. And your body pays the bill. 4 categories, 1 verdict. That is how every system crosses this table. INDIKA's verdict is the strangest one this table has recorded to date. Begin where every forensic case begins. Identify the system. Identify the perpetrator. Identify the mechanism of control. In INDIKA, the system is the Russian Orthodox monastery. The perpetrator is not the devil. The perpetrator is the institution, and the mechanism is one you have read about in history books, usually under different names. In 1957, sociologist Albert Biderman published what is now known as Biderman Chart of Coercion. He studied methods used on prisoners of war and identified 8 categories of physiological control. Isolation, manipulation of perception, induced debilitation, threats, occasional indulgences, demonstrating omnipotence, degradation, and enforcing trivial demands. Watch what the monastery does to her, and as you watch, ask yourself which of these you have seen before. In a workplace, in a family, in a relationship, in a country. Isolation. She is already separated from the other nuns. She is the strange one, the one who hears things. The monastery does not expel her. It quarantines her socially while keeping her physically present. This is textbook. Total exclusion creates murders. Partial exclusion creates self-doubt. Manipulation of perception. The monastery is the only reality she has access to. No competing framework, no secular education, no alternative community. Every piece of information she receives is filtered through doctrine. Enforcing trivial demands. This is the one most people miss. The monastery assigns her tasks that have no strategic value. Carry the water, clean the floor, repeat the prayer. These are not chores. In coercion literature, trivial demands serve as a specific function. They establish compliance patterns. The content of the task is irrelevant. The act of obeying is the product. And this is where the system design does something structurally rare. It makes you the player. Perform the trivial demands alongside her. You are not given the option to skip. You are not given a complexity scale. You move the cursor. You hold the button. You complete the task. The mechanic is the message. You are not watching coercion. You are practicing it on yourself. This is the architecture. The cost will appear in your second category, prefrontal suppression.
Open it. See for yourself.
Now, move from the system to the mind, specifically to your mind.
Much greater.
Twice as much. I don't know.
Interesting.
Because what happens to her in this section is what will happen to you in this exact configuration with no spatial vulnerability required. The devil in INDIKA is not a horror device. He does not threaten.
Why not?
He does not tempt with power or pleasure. He asks questions, and the questions he asks are the exact questions her fate was not built to answer. Watch what happens inside your own head when you encounter a question you cannot resolve but cannot dismiss. Your nervous system does not file it away. It keeps it open. It runs it in the background. This is not a personality trait. This is hardware.
You have such a simple explanation for a dog, but how come humans can never do without...
Leon Festinger named this in 1957. Cognitive dissonance, the discomfort you feel when you hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. Festinger's research showed something specific.
Not open it.
Dissonance does not resolve through logic. It resolves through surrender. Your mind does not evaluate which belief is more rational. It evaluates which belief is more costly to abandon. And when both beliefs are load-bearing, when abandoning either one means losing something you cannot afford to lose, the dissonance does not go away. It becomes chronic.
You don't even have anything to say. The abbess knows you inside out, so everything turned out just as written.
You have been in that room. Maybe not with a god. Maybe with a job that violated something in you, but paid the rent. A relationship you could not name as wrong. A belief you could not afford to question. Your body remembers what that room feels like. The system reinforced this through a second variable. Ilya is not a love interest. He is not a savior. In forensic terms, Ilya functions as an alternative attachment figure. Someone who offers you a different framework of meaning, but the design never lets that framework fully form. He is wounded. He is unreliable. He has his own delusions. So you are watching a subject trapped between two incomplete systems of meaning. The monastery, which is coercive but familiar, and Ilya, who is liberating but unstable. This is not ambiguity. This is a double bind.
Love me genuinely, do you understand? Not God who burns people in hell. That would be those damn demons, enemies of mankind.
I can't actually do anything about this butcher because of some unclear circumstances. Why can't he just stay silent?
So you're saying nobody can love God genuinely?
No. No, it's not like that.
Gregory Bateson developed double-bind theory in 1956, originally in the context of schizophrenia research. He described a situation where you receive contradictory instructions from which there is no escape. You cannot comply. You cannot rebel. You cannot leave the field. The only response your nervous system has left is fragmentation.
Are you going to argue again?
And this is what the system shows you in the most literal way possible. The pixel art sequences, those retro flashbacks that are often categorized as stylistic choices, are not aesthetic decisions. They are dissociative episodes rendered as mechanics. Her mind is fragmented under the weight of information it cannot integrate. The shifting visual register is what fragmentation looks like from the inside. If you played this game and felt yourself drift during those transitions, if your attention slipped, if you stopped tracking timeline, if you had to remind yourself which sequence was real, that drift was not nostalgia. That was your mind doing what hers does. The game showed you the mechanism by making you experience it. And dissociation does not end when the screen does. Your nervous system does not get the memo. Now, the body. This is where INDIKA reveals its true forensic profile. And this is where it diverges from nearly every game I have put on this table. Most games that register high on physiological impact do so through sympathetic nervous system activation. They spike your heart rate. They flood your bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol. They put you in fight or flight and keep you there. Crab meat did this. Outlast does this. Alien Isolation does this. INDIKA does not. INDIKA operates almost entirely through a different pathway, and that pathway is the anterior cingulate cortex.
Lost your nerve, huh? Would you stop me? Since when do you obey me? Don't worry. Fear is a natural reaction, life-saving in most cases.
The anterior cingulate cortex is the brain region most constantly activated during state of cognitive conflict. When you hold two contradictory beliefs, when you detect an error in your expectations, when reality does not match your model, this region fires. It is, in simple terms, the brain's conflict alarm. And here is the critical physiological fact. Anterior cingulate activation does not trigger the dramatic stress response you feel in a horror game. There is no adrenaline dump, no racing heart. Instead, it produces a low-grade, persistent cortisol elevation that the conscious mind barely registers. You do not feel attacked. You feel uneasy. You feel wrong. But you cannot locate the source. This is what makes INDIKA dangerous from a neurophysiological perspective. High-intensity stress, the kind crab meat produces, activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis in a pattern your body recognizes. Cortisol spikes. You feel it. When the game ends, the parasympathetic nervous system engages. Heart rate drops. You recover. The system is designed for this cycle. But INDIKA's cortisol signature is not a spike. It is a plateau. The anterior cingulate keeps firing because the dissonance never resolves. The game does not give you an answer. God might exist. God might not. The devil might be lying. The devil might be the only one that telling the truth. These contradictions are not resolved at the end of the game.
To end the child's suffering.
They are amplified.
The priest didn't.
And a cortisol plateau is, in exercise physiology terms, the equivalent of overtraining without a deload week. The body does not crash. It erodes. Prefrontal executive function degrades not through overwhelm, but through sustained low-level depletion, decision fatigue accumulates. The threshold for emotional reactivity drops. I want to draw your attention to something specific. The system sustains exposure across its full runtime without offering parasympathetic recovery windows. The pixelar sequences might look like breaks. They are not. They introduce new dissonance, a tonal shift so severe that the nervous system has to recalibrate. This is not rest. This is context switching under load. In cognitive neuroscience, task switching under sustained stress is associated with increased anterior cingulate demand, not decreased. The game's quiet moments are not quiet. They are the sound of your prefrontal cortex slowly losing ground. 4 categories now have evidence. It is time for the verdict. 4 categories. 1 verdict. Amygdala activation 1.5 out of 5. No predators, no chase, no startle triggers. The threat detection system barely registers these as danger. And that is precisely the problem. The body never mobilizes, so it never discharges. Prefrontal suppression 4.5. The highest score this category has recorded to date on this channel. Every argument the system presents is internally consistent and contradicts the one before it. The prefrontal cortex cannot build a stable model. You do not lose the ability to think. You lose confidence in thinking itself. Chronic stress load 2.5. Not a spike, a plateau. The danger is not intensity. The danger is that you do not notice it accumulating. Recovery demand 4. The screen goes black. The questions do not stop. Unresolved dissonance produces rumination. Your anterior cingulate keeps trying to close a loop that was designed to stay open. INDIKA's body score 2.9. 2.9. A misleading number. Prefrontal suppression 4.5. The highest verdict this table has recorded to date, and not the verdict that defines the score. The body has alarms for what it can fight. INDIKA targets what your body has no alarm for. That is not a low score. That is a blind spot. This has been The Last Helm. The autopsy is complete.